fun with that piece of music, The Girl I Left Behind Me, a traditional dance tune. We welcome you again to Seekers and Dreamers, this time in 2020. This is not quite how we envisaged it being. We thought we would be in the Seagull Theatre with the growing atmosphere of winter and Christmas time and everything coming on, a smell of mulled wine and mince pies, and friends from nearby and some from far away just gathering for what a number of people now say this seems to be feels like the start of Christmas for them. A time when we try not to put on a church service. This is not church, this is theatre, but where we try and enjoy and celebrate the Christmas story through traditional carols, folky carols, the sort of carols that people could get up and dance to, and some of them go back for a long time. The sort of tradition that you find now, maybe less so in church with its polished choirs, and more in pubs in places like Yorkshire and Derbyshire, where there's a tradition of people gathering and just singing the old carols, and the combination of good company and a glass of beer and a very special story in song just seems to somehow capture the mood in a way that is real and earthy and just feels right to us. This year it's not going to happen quite in that way because we're having to record this in separate homes in a COVID secure manner that we've grown used to, but hopefully we can bring to you something of the spirit of Seekers and Dreamers as we enjoy and celebrate the Christmas story in readings and in a couple of carols and traditional songs. The first one that we always begin with isn't itself a carol and doesn't tell the Christmas story in itself, but is the Wassail song, that story of people in agricultural communities, often the younger folk or people who weren't paid a great deal of money, going from house to house, particularly the houses of the wealthier people in the villages, just saying, come on you lot, we're not paid a great deal, but it's Christmas time, it'd be really nice if you showed a little bit of charity and generosity to those who've worked so hard for you through the year. And so we sing the Wassail song, Here We Come A-Wassailing. Here we come a-wassailing among the leaves so green. Here we come a-wandering so fair to be seen. Love and joy come to you, and to you your wassail too. May God bless you and send you a happy new year. May God send you a happy new year. We are not wandering beggars that beg from door to door, but we're your neighbours' children whom you have seen before. Love and joy come to you, and to you your wassail too. May God bless you and send you a happy new year. May God send you a happy new year. Good master and good mistress, as you sit beside the fire, pray think of us poor children who wander in the mire. Love and joy come to you, and to you your wassail too. May God bless you and send you a happy new year. May God send you a happy new year. We have a little purse made of ratchet leather skin. We want some of your small change to line it well within. Love and joy come to you, and to you your wassail too. May God bless you and send you a happy new year. May God send you Wassail song, a bit of licensed mugging from rural communities a long time ago. Our readings this evening, as part of this production, are simple reflections on the main characters of the Christmas story, and they're read by folk who are connected with the Seagull Theatre. And for our first reading, Agnes is going to bring to us a reflection that calls to mind how Mary might have felt. She's has this visitation from the angel, and as a very young woman, scarcely out of childhood, confronts the complications of finding that she is pregnant and dealing with the reactions of people and the wonder of the whole thing.
Perhaps it's easier to hear angels when you're young. You're scarcely more than a girl, and at times quite quaint, but harmless in your spoken thoughts. Not that you say too much, but go about your tasks and others' needs with unobtrusive poise, which might just cloak a hidden strength. So when the angel speaks, your thoughts are more upon the wonder and the clear-spoke rightness of it all, than where to find an explanation enough to satisfy suspicion, reason, and the scorn of those who see only a young girl and miss the strength behind that knowing smile. How unsurprising then, despite your unpretentiousness, loveliness, your love finds home with him, whose whiskered greyness and whose eyes reveal the weariness of one who yearns for home, yet journeys on until the time for peace and flowering comes. And as you choose to help him find the home he seeks, you lead him on another path, beyond the bounds of safe and known, into the realm of angel voices, and dream of how the world might be.
Okay, so we've heard the story from Mary's point of view. Ivan is going to bring to us how Joseph might have seen it. It must have been a complicated situation for Joseph. His betrothed announces that she's pregnant. He feels he's not responsible for this. How embarrassing. Probably how frustrating and disturbing for him. And so a piece that kind of works through Joseph's reaction to this, takes in how he thinks this will sit with the people locally, but also just digs deep within himself to let the significance of what is happening, that's kind of almost is beyond his mind, his ability to understand, but actually just finds what makes sense in all of this for him. So Ivan is going to read that piece for us now.
Joseph speaks. She thinks too much. My mother's final word upon the latest flight of fancy. A wild idea, enough to set the gossips clucking for a year or more. Why does she say such things? In most ways, she's demure, no stranger to hard work, likeable and sensible, a perfect catch or match, or so they said until the strangeness flowed. Good sense, of course, compels me to agree. I am of age, and wise, well, enough at least, to step aside from starry eyes. I love her, true, but solidly and sure. The ones who aren't appalled or slyly wink applaud my decency. Stand by her, Joe, a good man. Good man perhaps, though something deeper still demands I stay. You see, she speaks so personally of him, who otherwise on Rabbi's lips alone reside, and more, her speech remains so everyday. I've known deluded souls. She is not so. Her eyes and speaking flawlessly combine. Time only will reveal. For me, my fear is gone, for she sails high above the gossip, sneers and laughter of the town. I am her own. This child within her womb bursts free of every boundary save one. My love.
The story of the travellers from the east. Oddly enough, the Bible doesn't actually say there were three of them, but there were three gifts, and that's how we always think of them, as the three wise men who came from the east, following a star and seeking out a king. We know pretty much nothing about them except what is there in Matthew's Gospel, but that doesn't stop us using our imagination and wondering what it was that drew them, how they travelled. There's a wonderful poem by T.S. Eliot, The Journey of the Magi, that speculates on these things. There's a lovely book by Henry van Dyke, The Story of the Other Wise Man, the fourth one who never quite caught up with the others and spends 30 years pursuing the king. It's a lovely story. Read it for yourself. But for this evening, Will and Roger are going to bring us just a little picture of how it might have been for these powerful, deeply intellectual, highly driven and perhaps slightly fractious characters, how it might have been for them, how they worked it out together or not, how they resolved it, and just how they then embarked upon their journey. So Will and Roger will bring that part of the story to us now.
From the outset, the journey had been problematic. They had of course expected hard terrain, poor accommodation and all the other hazards which confront cross-country travellers. They had also been prepared for arduous mental struggles. This was, after all, an expedition viewed by most of their colleagues as a fool's errand, a reckless enterprise, provoked, in their opinion, by the discontent of middle age. But what the three of them had least expected, and which had brought them to the edge of catastrophic failure, was the simple business of travelling together.
With wisdom born of hindsight, they should have realized how hard the task would be. With such wisdom, they might have calculated the true cost of companionship and weighed up the demands of sharing and not controlling. Then they might have realized that the success of the venture depended not just on intellect and strength, but on humility, generosity, and self-giving love.
Since they had not thought to bring these latter gifts along with gold and frankincense and myrrh, their journey had from its first step been faced with squabbles, moodiness, and worse. They had disagreed about the choice of route, how fast a pace they should adopt, who held the purse, whose job it was to seek a lodging for the night, and how much they should pay. More than once a dispute had tipped over into daggers drawn, and only the starlight glinting on the steel was sufficient to shame them into mumbling an apology and send each one dragging his wounded pride into a night of troubled sleep. In fact, one evening the journey did come to a premature end. The bickering of the day had continued through mealtime, until the one of them, who throughout had argued least and been the most gracious, announced that he was weary of the competitive atmosphere within the group.
Tomorrow I shall travel on alone, for I would rather risk my life among the brigands and wild animals than spend another day feeling my soul grow sour with petty arguments. We embarked upon this journey because we had glimpsed something more worthy, peaceful and beautiful than our everyday lives. You can drag that vision through the dust and dirt if you wish. Carry on with your striving to be in charge if you choose. As for me, I desire no more to be a leader. Rather, before the light of the vision fades, I desire only to be led. And if death should overtake me, my spirit would be at peace in the knowledge that I was at least faithful to our calling and our quest. Good night, my brothers, and farewell.
As the first rays of morning light dissolved the darkness, the one who had spoken the evening before made ready to embark upon his solitary journey. As he left the lodgings, he was surprised to find his two companions outside on the roadway, waiting for him. The low sun filled their features with warmth, and for the first time since they had left their homes, he noticed they were both smiling. With the passing of the night, it seemed antagonism and bitterness were gone, and in their place an almost childlike lightness filled their hearts.
And so it was that as the sun rose before them, those who would be leaders became the led, and the one who set a star before them drew them steadily towards their heart's desire and journey's end.
As with those wise men, the travellers from the east, we don't really know anything much at all about the shepherds, except that they were in their fields, they were doing what shepherds do, guarding their sheep from predatory animals, and are drawn by lights in the sky, a wonderful revelation of some kind, and come and meets the child in the manger in Bethlehem. A piece now that is going to be read for us, which it is a retrospective piece. Marion brings us the thoughts of an elderly shepherd looking back on something that happened once, a long time ago, but with the benefit of hindsight and the wisdom and experience of the years, is the most profound and remarkable thing that has ever happened. And in this piece, the elderly shepherd would love to recapture that moment, and Marion brings that to us now.
Sweet remembered music. A time that was long since, yet unsurpassed. A song, a glimpse of brilliant light that could not last, but left us to return to hillside sheep, immersed in thoughts and words. When once our praise, that unexpected fountain from within, had eased, to end as sudden as begin. My life has run its winding course, though often I have sought that song so unmistakably sublime. A thrilling sound, earth's echo of divine intent, the grounding of his love within the child. I heard and saw what few will chance upon, and pray once more to hear, for me, for him, the angel's song.
So we've heard the stories as the story is told through the eyes of the main characters. We come now towards the end of this time together with a carol that comes from Cornwall, the Sandsday Carol, which tells the story of Jesus, not just the story of the Nativity, but goes right through his life, and it's really simple way that's grounded in in earthy things, in the woodland of old England, in a lovely dancey kind of way, which tells the story and gives the significance of the birth, the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus. I say from Cornwall, it's called the Sandsday Carol, and traditionally with our Seekers and Dreamers evening, we segue smoothly, well, as smooth as anything that this assembled group of would-be musicians can achieve, into a traditional Cornwall dance tune, which doesn't belong to this time of year at all, but actually belongs to the spring, and maybe in itself gives us a little bit of promise of what there is in store. The Sandsday Carol. Now the holly bears a berry as white as the silk, and Mary bore Jesus all wrapped up in silk, and Mary bore Jesus our Saviour for to be, and the first tree in the greenwood it was the holly, 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 and the first tree in the greenwood it was the holly. Now the holly bears a berry as green as the grass, and Mary bore Jesus to die on the cross, and Mary bore Jesus our Saviour for to be, and the first tree in the greenwood it was the holly, 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 and the first tree in the greenwood it was the holly. Now the holly bears a berry as black as the coal, and Mary bore Jesus to die for us all, and Mary bore Jesus our Saviour for to be, and the first tree in the greenwood it was the holly, 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 and the first tree in the greenwood it was the holly. Now the holly bears a berry as blood it is red, and trust we our Saviour who rose from the dead, and Mary bore Jesus our Saviour for to be, and the first tree in the greenwood it was the holly, 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 and the first tree in the greenwood it brings us pretty much to the end of Seekers and Dreamers for 2020. It's a lot of fun to do it. It's not, as you will tell year on year if you've been. If this is your first visit, you won't know. But it is never over rehearsed. Never let you ever think that it's put together by people who are just up for it. And I think hopefully that gives it its kind of authenticity and earthy feel, and perhaps brings in the connections that this is a story that isn't elitist or remote or weird or somehow distant, but is just a part of I don't know, dancing and having a smile and having a really kind of, I don't know, a smile on our face as we engage with the real events of life. Some of them tough, some of them not, but actually making sense of it, but actually be able to celebrate that and in our own way doing that through these old carols. Quite how Christmas is going to be this year is unknown, isn't it? And it's been a very strange year for us all, one way or another. Every time we finish Seekers and Dreamers, we end with a song of blessing. It will be it's a different one this year, for one reason or another. But it's a song of blessing, and blessing is something we can do to one another, and really have been doing to one another through this year, as we've applauded on our doorsteps on Thursday evenings, or have just perhaps looked out for the people around us in a more deliberate way than previous years. And so blessing people is wishing them well, and maybe by our actions showing them well also. So for us all, for those of you listening, for those of us who have put together this little video piece, for all of us we care for, and all of us we live among, here's a Christmas blessing. The peace of God be with you now, and those you love, and all around. The peace of God be with you now, this Christmas time and forever. The peace of God be with you now, and those you love, and all around. The peace of God be with you now, this Christmas time and forever. The peace of God be with you now, and those you love, and all around. The peace of God be with you now, this Christmas time and forever. This Christmas time and forever. This Christmas time and forever. Go well, and God bless, and have a safe and peaceful Christmas. Bye-bye.